Do you have any comments about public? Anybody? Nobody here from public, so. All right, we'll move on to the staff reports. Is Kristen online?
Yep.
Okay. Kristen, you wanna take that one?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you, and sorry I'm not there in person. I've got a couple of updates and then see if you have any questions, and then we'll talk a little bit about the budget. So as you know, we've had the layoff notices that have been sent out to our FoodWise staff. So those due to the elimination of the SNAP Ed dollars. Currently, Sandy is in the office, and so her last day will be December 1st. And then we have Joy, who's in the Eau Claire office, and her last day is also December 1st. The other two will actually be done on October 1st. So those are we're starting to wind down that program and see what that looks like in this process of winding down and looking at the stuff that's in the office and what to do with curriculum, those kinds of things. So we're currently working through that. We have until December, thankfully, to do that with Sandy. So that's currently happening. Connected or related to that, on today's agenda, you'll see the resolution that you requested regarding the federal government decision to zero out the SNAP Ed portion of the Farm Bill. And so this action does eliminate the FoodWise program nationwide, including here in Dunn County. So I worked with the clerk to bring it forward for your review. I want to thank you for your support and putting together or wanting to put forward this resolution. I think it does really reflect our strong partnership that we have and that the value of the work that's brought to the county. So thank you for that. I'm happy to answer any questions about the resolution. As you bring that forward, that'll be later on in the agenda, I think, to actually vote on it, but to move it forward. But if you had any questions, I'm happy to take those now.
Any questions for Kristen? You guys had a chance to review it? It's gonna move, well, we'll discuss this later in the agenda, so I'll just let it go at that. No questions.
Okay. I hope it reflects what you had asked for. Also, Deanna has passed out the spreadsheet for the priority-based budget document. So that should be in front of you. I know that you haven't had a opportunity to probably look at that real closely, but we were asked to complete this to complete this document for priority-based budgeting and then bring it forward to the committee. All committees are reviewing these with their departments. So it outlines extensions programs in Dunn County, showing the costs, funding sources, and connections to county or state mandates. Where appropriate, it also includes the number of people served, along with a description of who benefits from the programs, why the work matters, and how we deliver it. I think this will give a picture of Extension's overall reach and impact, and then all while aligning our work with your county priorities. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding this document.
On the budget that we had in our packet, you had moved 6,000 something to levy surplus and corporate council. Is that anything we should know about, or is that just something you do automatically when you first line of the
The revenue levy, or let's see, expense operating?
just a summary that we had gotten, that was in our packet. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's not on the main one, I don't think, that you just got today, but
Yeah, the one that I'm referring to is the priority-based budgeting. So I know Dan and Chris have talked about that with the overall committee. That was an exercise that department heads had to work through using AI to help look at budget options and different things. So That's different than our actual budget.
Okay, that's different.
So I can certainly address the budget if you have no questions on that. That I think that's the next piece on the agenda.
Hey, Kristen, I'm just going to do a clarifying piece here. That 11/17 document, that is the priority-based budgeting. What you see in your packet is actually what we're proposing for the budget. So what Bob is referring to here is if you look at the first line of the actual proposed budget, you see our general fund. It should say description extension. Your item should be 411100, that very top line. And it says percent adapted to proposed is 2.2%. And then it says in here, moved $6,575 from levy surplus at Corp Council. Do you know what that is referring to, Kristen?
I don't. I think that's been added since we completed the budget. Deanna, is Beata in the room?
She's
Oh.
not, but Dan just walked in and I think he might have an answer for us because that wasn't there what I saw before.
Correct.
So, so for those of you that are on other committees, you'll see this too. So, any of the property tax and levy areas had certain levels of like fund balance applied to them. So, like we did our wage variance, which gets applied to different departments as we build the budget. So that's ultimately kind of what's happening there. Is it's trying to demonstrate like how much actual real money was in there last year. So I would, that isn't a change that anybody in extension had anything to say about. It's essentially just a recognition of how much levy there was available. So if we were to fill that in, it would come from somewhere else. In this particular case, it was Corp Council, but it doesn't really mean it's more of a note for Beata than anybody else of where it came from.
Thanks for clarifying that, Dan. Yeah, I was like looking and I was like, that's a budget line that we didn't have access to change. So that makes sense.
Yeah, so in the levy lines would never get filled in, right? So if you were to look at any other levy, we don't update those. So any additional levy that we have at the time of building the budget, so let's just say there's $400,000 of additional levy, that's essentially something at the discretion. So the expenses may change. So now we say, how are we going to redistribute this $500,000 of new levy that we have this year? So levies at this point in the budget are more of a reflection of what it was last year.
So Kristen, on the total budget, your increase is about 16,300, is that about right? From over
Yes.
2025?
Let me explain a few things on that, but that is correct, Bob. So what we're presenting, we are presenting a modest increase due to personnel cost adjustments reflected in the contractual line item. So that's your flat fee. So the co-funded positions are flat fee. So those increased by 3%. And then of course the salary wage increase for the fully funded positions. So what I want to clarify is that the contractual service line for 2025 was approved by the Oversight Committee at $275,017. That was last year. However, that figure, the figure that was actually entered into the adopted budget in 2025 by finance contained an error, and that resulted in a lower than approved amount being recorded. And so the current increase in this line item, so in the contractual services, looks like it might be larger, but we are correcting the discrepancy that was in 2025 and then reflecting the personnel increases that we already discussed and approved last year. So I just want to make that clear that we are not asking for that much more It's just what was approved in the budget last year at 2025 was not put into the budget. What you all approved last year was not put into the final budget. It was about a four, what was the difference, Deanna? Do you remember offhand?
Yeah, so what was put into the budget line was $268,442 when the contracted amount was actually $275,017.
So the difference would be now, the increase would be about 9,700, so 44.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Mia? Okay, so I see that there's that difference of about $7,000 between what was adopted in the budget and what was on the contract. How was that paid for then? Did that just come from like the fund balance?
So we're still in the year. So what Chris had said is that if we do go over that contractual services line because of that discrepancy, that it would come out of, probably, I don't know where it would come out of, but they would cover it essentially. I don't think we will, based on some cost savings we had with some personnel. So I think we're going to be okay. But I just wanted to clarify that in terms of why it looks like such a huge increase in that line item. It really wasn't, it's not as large as what it appears to be.
While we're on this, may I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it seems like some of the biggest changes are in IT related things. So the telephone going up a lot, maintenance contracts going down a lot. On the other hand, can you sort of speak to what's going on with that?
Those are out of our control.
Mhm.
So those are numbers that were given from those departments. So we talk with IT. Every year we go through an exercise of what's the cost for maintaining phones, what's the cost for, we did actually decrease some of our costs in IT. I think we reduced our phones by a couple, which decreased a little bit of cost, but and actually Dan probably could talk to that much better than I could in terms of what IT is looking at, and then the same in maintenance. So those are not numbers that we actually populate. Those are populated by those departments that oversee. It would be the computer costs. So every year we put in money. So when there is a computer that needs to be replaced, that money is there in IT. So we give a certain amount to that, and then the phone costs, those kinds of things.
Okay. Dan, it looks like he has something to say.
Yeah, so yes, I think one of the things, and I don't know if it was mentioned as I just got here, anything that kind of ends in IT, well, specifically, anything that is not yellow, departments do not have the control of changing the spreadsheet is locked down. They can't touch those numbers. So those are distributed costs. So when you talk about, so there is a maintenance and contracts IT, right? So Microsoft licensing is maintenance and contracts. So that is the department's allocation. Well, I shouldn't say allocation. They tell us how many people they need, how many email licenses they are, and then they get charged for those appropriately. What you're seeing in the change in telephone to and maintenance and contracts, really small numbers, a small department from that standpoint. Actually just rolled out a new phone system in this building today. And that kind of changed those costs. So it used to be more of our primary cost for our phone system prior to that was maintenance for the phone. So those old phones, like that phone over there is like a $700 phone that you have to pay an annual cost on in order to fix it if needed. So that fell under maintenance and contracts. Now our phones are all just pretty much a subscription based. You have a phone number, you can make as many phone calls as you want, you can do all that, and the phone is included in that. So you're seeing a shift from the maintenance line to the telephone line, essentially.
That makes sense. And I appreciate the tidbit of information about the yellow boxes being locked down. I never knew that. And so,
No, the yellow aren't. The white are.
oh, I see.
Yep.
The yellow are the ones that
The department.
the department has control over.
Yep.
Okay. Dating my notes. All right, may I ask one more question?
Right ahead.
Let's see
First-
here, where was this? The line about travel-related expenses, down 11%. Is that like fallout from, FoodWise? Or is that a different cause?
Oops. No, so Deanna and I took a look at the budget and we tried to right size a few things. So,
Mhm.
so we took some monies out of there because we weren't using it. And so we reduced that line.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Foodwise has had their own budget for expenses, so their travel, there's not any monies in the budget that went to Foodwise specifically. It was a fully supported program through the grant, through the SNAP Ed dollars. So
Mhm. Right.
so unfortunately, we're not seeing any, the state and the county are, that we're not seeing any savings by having that program sunset.
All right, thank you. That all makes sense.
Mhm.
Any further questions for Krista on the budget?
So if I could, Bob,
Yep, right ahead.
there are just a couple of things else that I'd like to bring forward regarding the budget. So we might see, so there are two possibilities that may come into play with this budget that will increase the contractual services line. So let me just dive into those. The first one is that we're exploring a partnership currently with Human Services. So I was approached by Dunn County Human Services regarding a potential collaboration related to the Playgroup Coordinator Program. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's a playgroup that they coordinate, and the work is currently contracted to Rochelle Koenig through DHS, but she also works part-time for WIC. And so this playgroup happens every Friday morning. And so due to some employment classification concerns raised by HR, DHS is considering alternative options and reached out to us, an extension, to explore whether this position could be transitioned under extension. And so we're currently in the exploratory phase of this opportunity. So I've consulted with our Human Development Institute. And so we're actively conversing with DHS to just make sure that, work out the details, make sure that the work aligns with our institute. So the current proposal would involve adding a 0.4 FTE associate educator position to our 136 contract. But the funding would come from Department of Health Services through grants. So it's not a levy change at all. It's just that it would be a change on our 136 on our contractual line, that we would see that 0.4 increase, but we would be billing that out to a grant. And so that would not be billed to the county. It's just the way that it would probably have to work. We haven't worked through those details yet, but I just wanted to bring that that forward. But this partnership would ensure continual support for families who benefit from this program. So, and then it would provide a more sustainable employment structure for the position. So that's why we're currently looking at it. But I wanted to bring that to your attention, that final number may change based on that position, but it would not be an increase in the levy. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, everybody? Good? Yep, yeah.
Okay. And so then the other consideration for the committee that I'd like to bring forward, and I did not change this in the budget. This is a discussion I think that if you'd like to have during the budget discussion, there's been questions. So there's been question about the FoodWise program and continuing that, not only from a couple of people on the committee, but then also I had other county board members approach me as well. So in response to that loss of federal funding, Extension has been working with counties across the state to identify locally funded solutions that allow nutrition education efforts to continue. So in Dunn County, there have been questions by supervisors about options for continuing the program by building on the foundation of FoodWise and expanding the work to align with local needs without the limitations that the SNAP Ed guidelines had given us. So there's there's a couple options. One would be that the county would fully fund a health and what would then be called a health and well-being position, which would allow us to sustain and broaden the nutrition and wellness programming. So that would mean that the programming would continue in the schools, and probably expand in the schools, because we wouldn't have the low income requirement that the grant gave us, and then also be involved and engaged in the coalitions that Sandy had been working on, continuing that work, and other health and wellness work throughout the county. The position could be structured at either a 0.5 or 1.0 FTE, but it would be fully paid by the county. Extension does not have funding to co-fund these positions across the state if the counties want to engage at this time. Now, down the road, perhaps, but right now we're taking a $1.4 million reduction. And so we just don't have the money to put forward at this point. So the federal grant, as I mentioned before, there's no cost savings to the state or to the county regarding the elimination of the program. So there's no money to help with this. This would be new monies that would come in for this position. The estimated cost would be approximately anywhere from, depending on the position, 70 to 90,000. And then the county would be billed for actuals. So that would include and that does include salary and fringe, but it depends on who would be hired for that. But extension would handle, it would be an extension UW-Madison employee, and we would handle the recruitment, HR, all of the overhead, as we do currently with our staff, and it would be in coordination, of course, with the county. So this model would provide greater flexibility that would enable extension to respond more directly to county health priorities and maintain that high quality programming that the FoodWise program has been doing for many, many years in the county. So if you'd like to move forward with a position, it would need to be added to the budget today. As you are looking at that budget, that would need to be added. I did not add that to the budget. When Dan and I spoke or emailed about this, we felt it would be better for you to add it rather than take it out. So, so I just want to bring that forward for consideration. If that's something that this committee would like to bring forward, that is certainly an option that we would be able to do an extension. And that's about all I have for the budget overview, unless there's some questions.
Yep.
So if we were to add that position or to the budget, what would that be? How much?
It's approximately 70 to 90,000 for one full FTE position, and then of course half of that for a 0.5 position. I mean, I would probably budget at the higher end just in case, you know, until we know the actuals for that position once it's hired. But that's what the 1.0 FTE would look like. And then just as the other position, it would be actuals. So if you budgeted 90,000 for that position and it came in at 85 or 80, that's what you would be billed at. And you know, the rest, of course, you wouldn't pay. So it'd be on the contract. It would be again on the 136 contract. So those are all actuals.
Supervisor Burnt, you got a question?
Yeah, thank you. So if we were to discuss that, would that perhaps be something that we want to add to, or would make as, I guess, this is more functionally this meeting, but have an amendment made for the resolution regarding FoodWise? Or would this be a new
This would
action?
be a new addition, I'm sure. Yeah.
So you have an action item of 7A to approve their budget. So if that is something you wanted to do and discuss, you could make that as part of that motion when we get to that agenda item. This is
Yep.
really just that introductory phase.
And we would forward this to committee on admin, or just go, where to go from here?
It goes to the budget,
budget, yeah.
and then it'll go to the executive committee. We get into we're at a phase in the budget process right now of committee approval of the department's budgets. And so then we have the budget workshop coming up week from tomorrow. And then we'll kind of go over the full budget. After that, then the executive committee will look at it in September. We'll talk about it a little bit. We'll give another update at the full board in September. And then in October, the executive committee will finalize the proposed budget before it goes to the November meeting for approval. So this is kind of the last chance for committees to make changes to those budgets, though theoretically in your September meeting, you could also kind of go out and make an amendment to that and we could put it in there, but then it falls in executive's hands. So executive will make changes to the budget.
Any further questions for Kristen?
So could I go in a little bit? I know I got here just a little bit late, but you had the long 11 by 17 page. Should we go over that to a point?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just introduced it, Dan. We didn't dive into it because they obviously didn't get a chance to read it, but I introduced what it was and, just kind of what's in the document.
Yep. So yeah, so if you look through this, you can see we talked a little bit about priority-based budgeting and what we were doing in throughout that process. So over the last about 4 months, department heads have been working on this work in addition to building their budgets and doing all the rest of the stuff that they do. So one of the big changes with priority-based budgeting is looking at things from a program basis. So as you can see, there's kind of two different ways of looking at that budget. You can see in the traditional budget, you can see how much they spend on pens and paper and travel. Whereas this one is really looking at the different programs that UW Extension provides and what the cost of those programs are. So a different way of looking at it. And I think that was one of the big things that we wanted to get out of priority-based budgeting. The other piece of that was to be able to narrow down the scope of things for you to look at. Unfortunately, that didn't work out very well. So there was a scoring process as part of this where we aligned things with their with the different priorities that are essentially the items in the directional plan that the board had created 8 or 9 years ago. But then there was 3 components of that were scored in every one of the programs. So one of them was related to cost recovery. So how does this program generate revenue? And when we look at that, it's is there other mechanisms for this program to be able to generate their own revenue in order to decrease the burden on the taxpayer, right? So there was that component, and so if you look in column K there, so the scoring was yes, it kind of does, it maybe does, it sometimes does, it fully does, and when those scores kind of came out, my example is as we went through the whole thing. We go down to this one section of all of the, here's your top 10 programs that you should look at. And our high cost, low impact, low mandate program that we really had to look at was 911. He said, all right, there's something wrong with the scoring here. So anyway, our shift here is recognizing that maybe the quantitative using our numbers to be able to do that wasn't going to work. So we asked department heads to go in and fill in these 3 columns here. So section K, you can see UW Extension. I actually filled this in so Kristen doesn't have to take blame for what was written in column K for those. There's very little revenue in this area, but you can see that there is some revenue. So how do we explain what is that revenue? So there's certain programs that they may do a training where people come in and have to pay $100 to come in and participate in that training, right? So there's levels of revenue that come in, and that's what's reflected in some of the revenue for these programs. So just explaining where does that come from, right? Because that's an opportunity. Maybe we charge people 10 times as much to come in, right? Where's the right balance there? The next column over is the mandate, and mandate was another one that, if you've been on the board for a while, we talk a lot about mandates. There's not mandates. There's levels of mandate. It's a spectrum. The example that I've been giving in other committees as we started in the highway department, there is a mandate for the highway department. They need to provide passable roads. Just passable, right? So what is it? Do you have to do that? Yeah, we have to provide passable roads. So what does it cost to do that? So a lot of mandates are very similar to that. You have to do something, but what is it that you actually have to do? So we asked for department heads to kind of explain what that mandate is. And by that, not writing in statute 59.3. That's my mandate. No, write down what that mandate says and what that means in what it is that you're providing. So a little bit more information about what that mandate is. And then the last one was probably one of the hardest things in the scoring aspect of that, because the scoring was what percentage of the community is supported by your program. Well, pretty much every program that we provide in the county supports every citizen in the county. So it's very easy for everybody to say 100%, right? So then we don't get any differentiation between programs. So once again, that's where we ask department heads, explain who is using your program, who that's available, how many people are impacted by that particular program. Just to give you as county board members the ability to truly understand what the impact of that program is to the citizens of the county. So this has been a breakdown of, so obviously you're just looking at UW Extension here. There's 187 programs in the county. It's a much bigger piece of paper. And we're going to be going over that in some way, shape, or form in the budget workshop. But for your departments that you are approving the committees and overseeing, we wanted to get you this information today so that you had that. So, oh, and I forgot to say this at the last meeting. The numbers in here are based on the 2025 budget, because we started doing this before we built the 2026 budget. So don't try and match the numbers, but conceptually you'll see, this is about how much that program costs. This is about how much of that is personnel costs. This is about how much is non-personnel. And then the revenue side of that. Any questions? All right.
Doesn't look like any.
I have a question.
Okay, there you go.
I'm just trying to get a handle on the SNAP Ed funding going away and how that's reflected in the spreadsheet. So I see like on the top column here for nutrition education program, right? That's funded through SNAP Ed. Browsing through these other programs, I'm not finding SNAP Ed anywhere else, and that seems a little puzzling to me.
So yeah, SNAP Ed is a program. So that top column, that nutritional education program, that is SNAP Ed.
Okay.
That's the food,
I think I
food-wise
realized my
program.
confusion.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so it's not that SNAP Ed's not going away, it's the
Food-wise.
the food-wise portion of SNAP Ed. Okay, I'm good now. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. Kristen, you got anything more to add?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, my budget there. All right. We did the introduction to the extension budget, focusing on nutrition, BI, health and well-being. Who's up on that one?
Bob, I think that was the position that they discussed adding to the
Oh,
contractual services
that-
for,
That's a new position.
yep.
All right. Okay, written extension updates. Horticulture,
That is me. I made an error. I was looking forward to next month, so it's actually our soils and crops educator, Jerry Clark.
that's what I thought too, but I wasn't sure, but it's on here. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll appreciate the opportunity to talk about my program, and I think Deanna's pulling that up. But again, serving crops and soil, so primarily in the agronomy side of things in Dunn, Chippewa, and Eau Claire counties. So I'm based more out of Chippewa as far as a home base, but then also provide that service to Chippewa or to Dunn and Eau Claire. Part of what I wanted to show is some of the economic impact that the crops and soils area of agriculture in Dunn County provides, as well as kind of talk about the programming as well. So I'll trade with Deanna if she wants to hand a couple of these out, and then one to each, and then I'll move along here with my, so hopefully this works, a little delay. So on the economic impact, you may have seen some of this when Ryan provided his update a couple of months ago, but agriculture is still a huge industry in Dunn County. You could see about $1/3 billion of overall total impact in terms of the economic driver behind it. A lot of that is in obviously the sales of commodities across the county, and here we'll look at specific industries, but overall that's broken down by total farm production expenses and then the net cash farm income. And if you break that down by a per farm average, each farm is contributing around, if we have around 1,000 farms, a little over within the county, you're looking at around that $300,000 per farm of market value that those products are generating. And there again, you got government payments and some of those kind of things that come in addition to a farm. But you usually see somewhere around just shy of $100,000 on that farm income. Now that takes out some of the expenses, but we know that can be pretty a volatile part of it. And we've just seen that with the recent income and expense report that USDA put out, that commodity prices, corn, dropped over 20 cents. And then we saw soybeans actually go up because they're estimating more production from corn and less from soybeans. So farms by size, again, we're about, smaller farms, a little smaller in number, large farms, again, about that same number. So we have quite a few of our farms still in that middle range, anywhere from 10 to 500 acres roughly. But then if you look at how it's changed over the last 5 years, the farm size has gotten bigger. So it's increased by 14%, and the number of farms in total have actually dropped by 6%. So we're seeing the farms get bigger as we move along, which isn't a surprise. And then from the other side of it, from the market value, there's that 300 million or almost 400 million in economic value. But then if we look at where it's coming from, primarily on the crop side of thing, again, that's grains. So you're looking at corn and soybeans. Again, Dunn County has a pretty large dry bean production with Doan's Chippewa Valley Bean being located here. And then the livestock side, again, Ryan kind of focused on that before, again, looking at it, milk from cows, and again, the cattle and calves. Poultry and eggs, we also have a little bit there, but primarily driven by, again, dairy and the beef industry. So the land and farms, cropland, we see over 200,000 acres of cropland, almost 300,000. And then, we do have pasture land, woodland. But Dunn County is one of the larger irrigated counties in the state. If you get into the central sands, that's where you see much larger percentage. But Dunn County being at 14% is one of the larger irrigated counties in the state. And then the land use, we can see conservation practices are definitely increasing, especially the use of cover crops. That's 17%. A lot of counties we see somewhere below 15%. So Dunn County is definitely picking up the use of cover crops. And I think a lot of that has to do with two of the watershed groups here in the county are pretty progressive in that area. So they've seen the adoption of cover crops and conservation practices. And then the farms by value, again, less than $2,000 of value. A lot of farms doing that. That can be sweet corn. That can be a couple of hogs, whatever tends to go to market. And then you see the larger number again, being those larger farms over 100,000 in value being sold. So again, we have a lot of farms in that middle range, but if you look at the number of farms that actually contribute, we're seeing either large or small. So again, that's not a big change from what we see statewide. So that just kind of gives you a snapshot of what we're doing, how the county fits within the agricultural industry. And then just to focus on some of the programs I've done, most of my work is in the crop management courses, field events. We've been working pretty closely with the Red Cedar Demonstration Farm, with the Technical College and NRCS and the Land Conservation Departments in helping drive some of the programs that we can and research that we're actually doing out here on the demonstration farm. The Badger Crop Connect Focus on Forage webinar series, those are year-round now. So we have branded the Badger Crop Connect to be every other month, or at least or every other week throughout the growing season, but once a month throughout the winter months. But we're looking at branding that a little stronger, so there's something maybe 2 times a month. But that's something where we generate about statewide, generally anywhere from 80 to 100 clientele attend those on a regular basis. The grain marketing workshops and online courses, that's through our Farm Pulse grant that we received a couple of years ago when Katie was still in the position here. But we've picked up that project, and we've started to work more on the grain marketing side of things, which when we see lower commodity prices like we are now, that tends to provide a little more support. Pesticide applicator training and support, that's where Deanna comes in to help us coordinate a lot of that. But we typically try to do at least one training here in Dunn County, as well as provide the service to those that want to do self-study and provide that test for them on demand. And then most of my focus, I guess, from the research and some of the programming has been on the nitrogen, manure, and nutrient management side of things. So I handed out this little bulletin. We took a new approach to our manure applicator training, made it much more interactive. So if you look at the centerfold part of that, there's a big map in there. And what we did, we used to do death by PowerPoint. Yeah, just slide after slide talking about different topics. And we said this, we got to do something different after 20 years of doing this. So we provided this big, this map that's in your book. We have a large laminated 4x4, 4 feet by 4 feet map, and we put it right in the middle and put the tables together. And you can kind of see in that picture on the left there, a number of custom manure applicators or farmers. We forced them to, get up, use a marker, draw lines, talk about how they're going to move manure, these kind of things. So it was very activity driven. Very interactive. The workbook served as a guide, but we got huge response from it saying we love this a lot more, because they actually got them to, we didn't do as much talking. We got them to break out into small groups, did the mapping exercises. So we had 5 or 6 different activities for them to do, and then we kind of came back and asked them how they handled the activity. So one of the comments that was given to us from one of the consultants was when we did this program over in Abbotsford, we also did it here. I think that was late March, maybe, Deanna. We hosted one here in this room. But this quote, we actually got a nice quote from one of our crop consultants, and basically said that I want to pass along that I was very impressed. The hands-on interaction with the MAP industry peers and presenters was great. I appreciate this kind of approach being used and incorporated. So we tried to revamp the whole thing, and now our plans for 2026 is what do we do for an encore, because we've really improved the process, and we're thinking of making more, not so much a board game, but making it something that the situation changes as they make decisions, and we're kind of working on that at this point. So again, my research program as well. So Ryan and I are a couple of the few faculty members still left in extension. So we have a research component of 25% that we need to do. And so most of my project works around adaptive nitrogen management. We also have a project in Chippewa County that's part of the NOPP project. But also look at malting barley, some of the alfalfa into corn silage. We did an oat variety germplasm evaluation, since a researcher at UW-Madison was looking for a northern site. And I said, well, we have some land up in Chippewa and Dunn County. Let's see if we can put this out here. And this will be the final year of industrial hemp. I'm washing my hands of industrial hemp after this year. The grant ran out, my licenses ran out. So this is the last year we will work on industrial hemp. So we'll try to put together a nice journal article that represents what we found so far. So with some of these alternative crops and cropping systems, are there ways to change what we're doing to either save some soil, reduce input costs, or at least maybe increase revenue? So we did one of these nitrogen adaptive management projects here in Dunn County at the demo farm just down the road here last year. We have another one implemented in Augusta and Menominee again this year. But basically looked at 7 rates of nitrogen across the small plot design. And you can kind of see the curve there. That's what we're looking at. So we had anywhere from 0 to 200 pounds of nitrogen out there. And we kind of peaked out somewhere around that 120 pounds of nitrogen. So we really don't need those high rates on some of these soils here in western Wisconsin that farmers think, if I put more nitrogen on, I'll get more yield. Our research has kind of shown year after year that you get this curve, it always lands somewhere around that 120 to 130 pounds of nitrogen is all you really need to produce the top end of the yield curve there. We've had some years where that's a straight line. 0 was just as well as some of the higher rates. So again, that's why we replicate them. We do them year after year to kind of get a database built on what these nitrogen rates look like here in western Wisconsin. So the NOPP project is grant funded through Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection. We're working with some of the watershed groups to currently put those grants in. They're due in January. So we're hoping to get some grants to help continue some of this nitrogen research. And maybe the photo's a little washed out, but you can kind of see the streaks in the field there where there was less nitrogen than more nitrogen. But this was a farm in Chippewa County that we've worked with. And again, it shows that crop does need some nitrogen, but too much, like the graph before, can show that we maybe don't need too much. So what we saw here was very similar to what we saw in Dunn County, where you get into that 120 pound rate with manure, without manure. We don't need these really high rates of nitrogen in order to pull off these higher yields. And what's interesting in this graph, if you look at the 0 where we'd put no nitrogen on, we still pulled in close to 150 bushel of corn without any additional nitrogen. The manure bumped that up a little bit, again, probably 8 bushel or so across those lines. But part of my work is we have statewide recommendations on fertility recommendations. How do we fine tune that for the soils that we have here in our area? What was unique about this project too is we have these nitrogen trapping lysimeters buried about 30 inches deep in these soil pits. So the farmer allowed us to dig 48 holes in his field and put 3 of these in every hole. So there's 144 of these lysimeters in this field. And part of that project is we installed them in 2024, dug them out in 2025, and reinstalled some in the new area this April as well. They stay in there a full year trapping nitrogen, and then we're able to see what happened within those fields. And so this is what that graph looks like. The left is where there was just synthetic fertilizer. The right is where we had the fertilizer with the manure. And if you could see in the right graph on the upper right-hand corner, there's about 6 dots that are above 400 pounds of nitrogen per acre that these lysimeters trapped. And you wonder, how is it that high when we really didn't put that much nitrogen on? But what's interesting is 6 of those 8 dots are where a tile line was running through. And so we're speculating that the water pulling towards that tile line pulled that much more nitrogen with it. Again, 1 year of data, but are we going to see that again next year, that these higher nitrogen rates that are being trapped within those little lysimeter hockey pucks actually has that much nitrogen going out that tile line?
So if it's pulling that much in on the tile, where's that water going? I mean, is it going right into the streams? And
it's going out somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, it could be a ditch. Could be, it cannot discharge into the stream, but there's no rule. I think you need to have a buffer. I'm not sure what that rule can be, but there's got to be some kind of buffer between that outlet and any surface water. So in this case, the creek is probably, I'm going to say 500 feet away. And there's pretty much grassy area leading there, but a lot of these discharge into a ditch. So Again, this is one site, one location, but we thought it was very interesting that the higher, a lot of those, 6 of those 8 dots, about 400 pounds to the acre, was in the quadrant where they were at the higher application rate. So you'd see the 150 to 200 pounds of nitrogen. And 6 of those 8 dots were in where the tile line cut through. So just an interesting observation that we saw this year. We reinstalled them this year. We'll see what happens when we dig them out in April of 2026. We did some alfalfa interseeding with corn silage. We talk about interseeding cover crops. Well, can a dairy producer actually use this as a way to get their alfalfa established without hurting their corn yield? So we did this seeded 2024, and then, 2023 with the corn silage. 2024, we came back and seeded kind of a direct seeding. And so you could see there was about 1 ton of difference between what we got is 1 ton more of corn silage where we didn't interseed, but we also got 1 ton more of alfalfa where we did interseed. So there was 72% cover out there. So it was like, well, I think, for a farmer on maybe a 1 year of data again that looks at, is this an opportunity to establish alfalfa with corn and treat it more as a cover crop that first year and still get your first year bump in tonnage in that first alfalfa year. So one that we'll write up some more data on. We have this done this year with no-till, and we'll take a look at what that means down the road. Malting barley, again, one we're just trying to see if, as an emerging market, we've worked with it for a number of years. The craft brew industry was looking for locally grown barley. Our research kind of looks at the winter barley. Can we use that as a cover crop and then have a value-added product crop at the, say, in June or July of the following year? Harvested early, can we get another second crop of something following the winter barley system? So again, one that we're looking at specifically with University of Minnesota as a research project. And then again, we're looking at varieties, nitrogen rates, fungicide rates, some of the different products, fertilizer, those kind of things, as well as potassium. So we have a little small plot planner. We're able to do these in a very small area that we don't have to ask the farmer to give up too much land in order to put these little plots in. Same thing that we do with the industrial hemp. Like I said, this is the last year that I'll be working with this crop. Again, we've looked at fiber and a number of different agronomy traits. The industry, again, started off very interesting, 7 or 8 years ago. We've focused primarily on fiber and grain, got out of the CBD essential oil side of things since that market got flooded. And looking at it from, can this fit into a cropping system and be able to plant late, harvest early, and then again fit this crop into as a third crop within a cropping system. Problem is market development. Nobody wants grain does have potential for cooking oils and these kind of things, lotions, soaps, but fiber is the one that I think we can really hang our hat on. We can get a lot of tonnage in a short amount of time. We just need to find a fiber market for it to go. Most farmers have a drill, a way to bale it. So it's a crop that we don't have to have a lot of investment with, but again, we need market development on it. And then just finish up on a few things that as a faculty member we still need to do. So we do service for a number of different work groups and within our faculty department as well, and some of the associations that we work with, and specifically here in Dunn County, the Chippewa Valley Forage Council, the Red Cedar Demonstration Farm Committee, pretty well involved in trying to get some of the research projects done or some of the educational programs delivered. And then the Mayo Clinic Midwest Rural Health Research Community Action Board. That's a long committee, but it's one that I was recruited for to provide an agricultural perspective on that committee to help researchers design some of their medical research with a rural audience in mind. Some of the scholarly products, we've had a few journal articles published recently this year, and Ryan and I need to go through a 10-year review process every 5 years. Mine's up this year, so the more journal type of things and scholarly products we can deliver, that always helps that process move along. But if you're interested in any of these related to some of the cover crop work we've done, soil health, and even this Journal of Clinical and Translational Science will be kind of interesting. I helped write a few paragraphs on my perspective, as well as did some of the editing and review under it. So they were gracious enough to call me a co-author on that. So that'll be kind of fun. And then finally, we did do a presentation just a couple months ago at our National County Agents meeting on our relationship building with the Hmong community on some of our educational programming and research related to the food safety side of things. So that was with Kristen Kurkowski, a colleague of mine in the southeastern part of the state. We also put a poster together on our grain marketing and organic and women agriculture grant program, and that'll run through, we're hoping through June of next year, we'll have enough dollars for that. And we put a poster together, again, on our manure applicator training program, which you have in the book here that I handed out. And then finally, a couple upcoming events. Ryan and I are working on some corn silage dry down projects since that harvest season will be upon us here in a few weeks. So working with some of the co-ops and agronomy service providers. So we're hoping to gather some of the information from Synergy Co-op as they have their agronomy day here in Menominee. And then we do have a low disturbance manure application field event. So if you see any of the photos and things and you're interested in manure, we're going to be right in the backyard here. I can't not talk about manure. So low disturbance day on September 10th, 1 to 3, and Alpha Lawn Farm is just west of Downsville. And it's on Highway D, just to the south of where it hits Highway 72. So if you're available that day, come down, and we got about 7 or 8 different application pieces of equipment, and you can see how that whole system works. So I think that's what I had. And if you got any questions, Ryan and I represent the ag side of things here. So if you got any questions, try to answer.
Is low disturbance, basically broadcasting or what?
No, low disturbance, different toolbars they'll have an injector
Yeah,
and like a sweep that might lift the soil
Yeah.
and put the manure underneath it and put the soil back down. Or it'll put it in a real narrow band, within. So there is a little bit of soil. That's why they call it low disturbance. If you lay it on top of the soil, there's the risk of it running off or
Right.
moving a little more. Then you probably have to come in and incorporate it with some kind of tillage equipment anyway. This is to be designed to inject that manure just below the soil surface or right in the root zone, not to go real deep, but just to disturb the soil enough that that manure can be absorbed in the soil profile.
would they ever, consider, what was the term for, strip till
Mhm.
and planting? I mean, would that,
Yes, this equipment is all GPS guided, so they know where that trench is, and you
Right.
could come right behind it and plant
plant it?
right over top of that. Yep.
I
Correct.
think that'd be a good selling point.
Yeah, and I think that's, with the rules from DADCAP, DNR, NRCS.
All right, don't leave any puddles.
Okay, yeah, you don't want to see it laying on the top because that's a runoff issue. So there can be some toolbars that we are going to have one that does dribble it on the top, but then we want to see that difference of, this is what it looks like if you don't work that in. So.
You
Yeah.
just go one slide back. I want to write down that information.
Sure. And I do have a flyer too built for this, so
Oh,
I could
okay.
get it to Deanna and get it to the committee
Yeah.
if you're interested. But yeah,
Yeah,
would
that'd
be-
be good.
September 10th, and if you're down by Downsville on, or 25 and 72, go west, I don't know, 5 miles, almost to the Pierce County line, I think. You're pretty close.
Yeah, my husband spent some time in Ireland earlier this summer and was telling me about how they do that when they do manure spreading. And the water there is just pristine, and they really take these things seriously. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And, it's just the technology is there, that system that you're seeing in the picture, there's a hose connected to it. The manure's pumping from maybe miles away,
Mhm.
but it goes into that machine and it doesn't go that fast because it's
Mhm.
got to pump that manure in and get it where it's supposed to be. So hopefully we can keep it there.
Right. Thank you.
And this would help on application time on spreading it out too. Then.
Absolutely, yep. And there's even some toolbars that you can put it onto standing corn. And so if you go early enough, and if that hose happens to drag over corn, if it's young enough, it'll come back. There's also systems that run on a reel, so it'll go out and then it'll move over and wrap itself back, so the damage to the standing crop. So if you can get the manure there, especially manure, out there when the crop needs it versus putting it all up at the beginning or the end, when there's no crop standing, that's when the risk of it getting away is the greatest.
One thing too, I'd say is if you are interested in programs like Jerry, Ryan, Louisa, anyone in our office is doing, they're pretty frequently posted on our Facebook too. So I just posted Jerry's program, actually, the one on September 10th, right on our Facebook. So that's a great place to find more information about some of these events too. But I would be happy to also send that pamphlet, or I guess the program thing, right to you guys too. So yeah.
Any further questions, Brent? Thank you. That was very interesting.
Thank
Love manure.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6. Items placed at the request of the chair, economic development update. Adam, not here. Okay.
I can speak to it. Yeah. Dunn Economic Development is meeting upstairs. That's why I was late. So if you've been following it, so Dunn Economic Development was able to secure a small business development grant, which will turn into essentially a grant program that will support small businesses in Dunn County. So I believe it was going with 200,000. Don't quote me on the number, over the next couple of years. So pretty excited about getting that grant. It's something that I think Adam, I believe this is something that he had applied for like the moment he got the job. So he's just over a year. So they did a good job in securing that, as well as we just got notice today that Dunn County has been recognized as a hub zone, which Adam can explain better than me, but it qualifies us for, or it increases our chances of receiving some government funding or some government sponsored activities in the county. So that's mainly the big updates going on from economic development in that aspect of things. Really just looking to continue to grow and reach out to the different communities, and housing obviously is something that Adam has been focusing on a lot, and the housing action team here at Dunn County rolling out the I forget the name of the program. Some program. But the concept around it is reaching out to the municipalities and talking to the municipalities about what type of housing and where are you interested in that happening, so that we can identify those spots and then work with developers that already knowing what they want or what they're interested in, and whether that's a possibility in that area, as opposed to a developer coming in and saying, I want to build this, and then the municipality saying no. We'll start with the municipality coming out and say, we're looking for some single family and multifamily housing right here. Is that something you can do? And so kind of changing around the process a little bit and working with municipalities to be able to do that. So development friendly municipalities, that's what they call it. Yeah. So, yep. So yes, lots of good things coming out of economic development.
Any questions for Dan? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I've been following the city's subsidy program and how that's been happening, and the funding lowering from that, and being somebody who works for a nonprofit, a lot of those monies can really make a difference, especially for places like Stepping Stones or the Humane Society, and a lot of these organizations that really serve they're in Menominee, but they don't really just serve Menominee. They get everywhere throughout the county. Do you know if this grant might be something that we could also use more, I mean, not necessarily us just giving nonprofits money, but being able to be used to help that.
Don't quote me on it, but I'm going with no.
Okay.
So a portion of that is for existing businesses and growth of existing businesses, and then another portion is built towards new businesses going forward. So it's really investments in increasing their footprint, buying a piece of equipment that will help them kind of grow, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions on economic development? Move on to Dunn County Communications.
Wow. All right. We had our top video ever, top piece of content ever. So if you saw the video of Chris's retirement and me coming in, that had 36,000 views. The last time I saw it, that's pretty much most of the county, although judging by all the people who reached out to me, it got well outside of the county. So, you know, and I think that's something that we've been focusing on is if you follow that, we've been doing a lot with video development and creation. We say that we are in a media desert, but in addition to the media desert, there's a population of the world that wouldn't watch the media if it was there. So social media and reels are really the way that we can get content out to a younger generation. I shouldn't say younger generation. I can get stuck in reels too. Or maybe I'm the younger generation. I don't know. But so we've really been focusing on doing that, and I think that just goes to show that if we can get things out there, obviously that's kind of goofy, but it also gets across the point to a whole bunch of people understanding that hey, there was a change in leadership within the county, right? That there's plenty of people that didn't even know I worked for the county that now know what I do, and there's people who live here, so and knew me, so. It's getting things done, and I think that lit a little bit more of a spark. So we'll have some more videos up and coming, and always looking for content. Well, they say there's no shortage of content, but there's the creativity side of how do we take that piece of important information and build it in a way that it makes it so people don't go like that and scroll away from it and move on to the next item. So
So kind of, if you have any shortage of ideas, given how most people tend to respond to any sort of highway or roadway project, I wonder if that might be something fun to kind of get that word out there, because clearly it's working and
Right.
getting its reaches, but kind of communicating that further and sort of trying to have people appreciate our highway department employees
Yep.
more than
that's
gosh darn it.
to spoil it for the 15 to 20 people that watch these videos. The next one that we're looking at is related to highway and what the sign that says road closed, no through traffic actually means. So we're going to be kind of letting people know about County Highway D is going to be under repair here for the next month or so. Yeah, the highway workers appreciate it when people aren't flying down the road while they're working on it. So we're gonna work on a video related to that. Maybe 2 months too late as we're nearing the end of road construction season, but hopefully people will remember it as they move forward.
So you've done a couple of these goofy videos on like advertising job openings. Has that made a difference in terms of like the quantity or the quality of applicants?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we filled those positions.
Okay.
Um, I think in general, and this is purely anecdotal, but
Mhm.
you know, as I speak with people that I know around, as they see those, we get that looks like a fun place to work.
Mhm.
And that's a part of the goal around those videos is not just here's a position that's available, but that's a position, that's something I'd like to do, and that looks like a place that I'd like to work.
That makes sense.
So I don't, yeah, I guess I can't speak to the other end, but that's really the intent around that. And from what I hear from people, just saying like, hey, that looks fun and that looks like a nice place to work. I've heard that multiple times from people I know in the community. So
Mhm.
now they don't work here now because of it, but
Right.
who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
The reputation is out there, and that's part of the goal.
I do get that impression from those videos. So yeah. Thanks.
Any further questions? Move on to broadband.
Yeah. I haven't given a broadband update in a while. It wasn't on the agenda last month, and I meant to.
No, it wasn't on there.
So, so broadband has been, you could call it a holding pattern, but it's been changing around a lot. So the BEAD grant that, if you've been around for a while, we've been in well, we're waiting on the federal government to approve this. We're waiting on the federal government to approve this. And we finally got all of our approvals, and the state started doing their granting process, and they were one step through. They had already awarded half of the grants, and then the rules changed. So they got to start back over. They had to remove all of the awards and start all the way back over again. So they're in the sub granting process again. So the rule changes are they're summed up in the terminology that they use is the oh, I just had it in my head as BOB. Best of benefits or something about benefits. The short version is a changes to the rules that made more providers eligible to apply for these grants. The intent around that was to potentially decrease the cost of a project and in turn be able to cover more area or not use all of the $5 billion that was set aside for it nationwide. So what that means for Dunn County, so if you remember the BEAD project, there was essentially one area in Dunn County that we were targeting for BEAD funding, and so that was just north of Wheeler, in the town of Hay River. We had forget the terminology that we had, but we had worked with Mosaic Technologies as they were applying for that particular area. I don't know whether they were or weren't awarded. I don't know whether they've reapplied. The person that we worked with is no longer with the company. So, but one of the changes that had come in is they enabled different technologies. So two of the main technologies that they added were fixed point wireless. So the state of Wisconsin had made it so fixed point wireless. So this is the fancy term for essentially a tower, and then you have some sort of a receiver on your house that is connecting to that tower, and that's how we get the signal from point A to point B. The state of Wisconsin in their original application had put that on the third round of their application process, essentially saying we prefer a fiber connection, but if we get down to it and it's way too costly for us to serve these 3 residents in 100 square miles, fixed point wireless might be the answer for that. But in other areas, we want to try and prefer fiber. So they're not allowed to do that anymore. So fixed point wireless becomes essentially equivalent to fiber in that. So, and then the other technology that was added is low Earth orbit satellites, otherwise known as Starlink. So, unless you know of another company that does that. So what's tricky in that regard is when you think of the cost of putting fiber into the ground, right? You have to bury that fiber, you have to bring it to every one of the different houses, and it costs a lot. For fixed point wireless or for low Earth orbit satellites, so take the low Earth orbit satellites, they're already there. So there's no cost to providing this service for an individual. So they had to figure out a way within the granting process to kind of make those equal. So how does somebody who's already has this service compete for coverage with someone else? So what they did add is low Earth orbit satellites had to provide any of the home equipment as part of the process, right? So typically you're going to have a satellite dish you have to put at your house, and then a hub or a modem or something like that that's going to go in there in order to connect up to it. The costs for that, upfront costs for that are $700-800 in order to get started. So that's something that would have to be provided for free, which is equivalent to like fiber. So if a company puts fiber in, they're not allowed to charge you to bury that fiber through your yard and put that thing in your house, right? So that setup fee had to be included. That was a BEAD requirement. So that is a BEAD requirement for low Earth orbit. And then the other component that they had to do then is they said, all right, so we could provide up to 100 people in this area. So we need to be able to dedicate a certain amount of bandwidth for those individuals. And then they had to kind of come up with the cost of doing that, is how they've kind of gone through this process of figuring out how to compare apples to apples between those two different systems. So it's been complex. Like I said, it's in the application process right now. We'll see. There could still be fiber put into that area, awarded to a provider here, or one of the other providers could have. I assume it's likely that Starlink will apply for most of Wisconsin in some way, shape, or form, as they do provide service in this area, but they have to figure out what those costs are. I think there's always a debate that can be had about that. One of the reasons that fiber had been preferred in the state of Wisconsin is it was a kind of a known technology that we don't know yet know the limits of it. So there's a lot of growth potential. If you have a fiber connection to your house, you may have 1 gig right now, but that fiber we already know has the potential to get into the hundreds of gigabytes or greater. So that potential for growth is there. The growth potential of fixed point wireless and low Earth orbit satellites are maybe less known and questioned, I guess, at this point. And so that's kind of that difference in the trade-off there, though likely cheaper. But as we look at the BEAD project, it's kind of those once in a lifetime opportunities. So that's why they were hoping for fiber, but that's not the way it's going. So we'll see.
It's really fascinating, especially with prioritizing the fixed point wireless. I just started getting into amateur radio, and I've just had a trip up to a repeater site, the WQOW antenna site in Colfax. But I think that the fixed point wireless, if anything else, would be a pretty good option if you can't get fiber in the ground. But it's cool that that's in there. So thanks for the update.
Mm-hmm.
Any further communication or questions on broadband?
I guess I have one. So the granting process seems to be prioritizing cost. Do other factors like reliability or future proofing, do those factor in, or is it just coming down to cost?
So there was a lot of criteria, cost was always a factor,
Mhm,
right?
okay.
Number of people served versus the cost
Mhm.
to be able to do that. And what the benefit of bargain, that's what it was called. What those changes did is they took out the ability for states to prioritize certain technologies over others. So that's where the state was prioritizing certain technologies over the other, and they're not allowed to anymore.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that cost changed,
Mhm.
but you added additional technologies in there, under the guise that it was cheaper,
Mhm.
which it may be.
Okay.
But yes, I think there's that long-term potential, which can certainly be debated.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. No further questions. We'll move on to next item is the library report. So the library planning committee had met on July 21st for the first time since 2023. So it's been a while. Yeah. So they plan on meeting now once or twice a year. What we did on this, our first meeting is look at the library budgets. And you notice that Boyceville and Sand Creek were losing money this year, so they sent the committee members back to see what they could come up with for more money. And if they can't do it, they're gonna come back to this committee and see if we can do like we did last time for Colfax. But we don't want to get into the habit of doing that. We said that when we did that for Colfax. I said that we don't want to make this a habit every time they run out of money, that we're gonna try to bail them out. So what we're gonna do is meet before they get their budgets out. So we're gonna start meeting in April and May to get everything set before it comes to this committee to approve it. So that'll help in the future, that we'll know ahead of time that what's going on. So we don't get surprised, I should say. So, so we'll start meeting again, I guess, Supervisor Steen is the chair. So if you have any questions, you can always contact him or me or somebody. So any questions on the library committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item. Consideration of actions to be taken by the Community Resource and Tourism. All right, we'll take a look at this budget again. And we can discuss that. Approval of the extension budget. Do we have to have a motion to talk about it? No? You probably should legally to bring it. We have a motion on the floor, a second by Supervisor Burnt. Okay, all in favor? Now we can legally talk about it. is what
Oh,
we're
okay.
doing. Yes, we just approved to bring it to the floor to talk about. Now, we ain't approved we
Okay,
have
okay.
not approved this yet, no. We bypassed it, never mind, no. No.
Right.
So the question, I mean, right now they're asking for 9,744 to update the budget. We want to talk about the position a little bit.
Yeah.
Open the floor to anybody who wants to speak, I guess that's 2 or 4 or 2 against, it doesn't matter. I mean, what do you want?
I guess, yeah, knowing what I guess that position would be providing, I feel like it'd be a very valuable thing to keep that within the county. Just knowing how many people that they served, especially with their presentation last month. That Foodwise was able to do, and additionally that this would not just be restricted to low income families, but I mean everybody. So I guess I would say that it would be a valuable addition.
It would be a cost to the county of,
Yeah.
as it goes, but yes. Larry, got an opinion?
Is that what we're talking about?
That position, yes.
I think we have to let it go. And, I think we heard from Kristen today that, Extension is looking at a 4 million reduction. We've already lost services of agents, from one county to maybe serving 3 counties. And, I think there's just a time when you have to say, maybe things are gonna have to, um, be finished up to bottom out and then work its way back. Well, it's working its way back by taking the dollars that came from the federal government and saying, Dunn County, you come up with the money. So, what might have been a federal program before and federally funded, uh, I don't think it's the responsibility of Dunn County to then take it over. And I have some concern that we have duplication of programming. And I can't name them off to you. But to give you an example, we talked about economic development with um, with what we've got there. What was the term for the last that they were meeting upstairs for?
Done economic development.
Dunn County Economic Development. So Dunn County Economic Development is looking at the county and trying to decide what the county's needs are and where the county dollars should be spent. And it wasn't a year, maybe 2 years ago, we got a 1-inch pamphlet from West Central Regional Planning that covered every aspect of housing I thought that was available. So we're doing the same thing over again. And talk about unfunded mandates. I was on this committee when we would sit down and we would give $5,000 or $10,000 for nonprofits. That included the Mabel Tanner, included many different things. And that money is now all eaten up by West Central Regional Planning at $26,000. So I'm complaining about not West Central Regional Planning. I'm complaining about Dunn County having to spend their money because the state legislature passed something in 1971 that we had to support them at that level. Well, it's gone from $5,000 or $6,000 up to $25,000 and $26,000 the last few years. So if you really think that we need to have another county employee at $80,000 or $90,000 a year, isn't that more important than $26,000 a year to West Central Regional Planning to go over regional planning? That's already been gone over, and now we got a person hired to do it. So it's like if you don't slow down this spending, you're going to have people not being able to support you. And last year, I suppose we'll see it again from the treasurer's report. I think there was $260-some thousand of unpaid property taxes that the county then had to go to the general fund and pull that out. So sooner or later, you have to own up to the fact that you can't do everything for everybody. And the trouble with this type of budgeting versus this type of budgeting, this budgeting puts a face to it. So am I a cold, hard meanie because I think there's somebody here on this committee, on this sheet of paper that doesn't need a job? Well, of course, I think they need a job. But on this sheet, we make decisions on how many dollars we have to spend and how we're gonna get those dollars. So, there isn't a single person that I have nothing against, on, the SNAP program or, Sandy and the women that come. I don't dislike them and think they don't need a job. I just think it's just kind of cruel that the federal government ditches it. And that the answer to the federal government ditching it is that Dunn County now has to come up with another $90,000. I think that's cruel. I think that's cruel to the person that can't pay their property tax. I think that's cruel to the person that has to make a decision on low income housing or fixed income housing. I mean, I'm retired. Cattle prices are good. I'm not complaining, but that's a hard check to write out. Now, if the only income, and my wife sees it all the time in her business, in bankruptcies. And you got a couple that's, into the retirement years and, maybe they weren't lucky enough to work for a municipality or a good company. And they sort of work for themselves and, now they're retired and their social security income is what they have to live on. Well, price of milk hasn't gone down. Eggs have gone down, and that isn't because of different people in the government why eggs went down. But I think we have to be responsible to the citizen that has no problem keeping up with the expenses of Dunn County. We certainly think we have to take care of the people that don't have money, low income. Somehow is their rent going to be cheap? And they might not own a home. But, if, so I can't support it. And I'll tell you what, it will be back if it has merit. And it probably has merit. And, if we just go ahead on the first day and say, well, we'll take care of the problem by spending $90,000, there ain't gonna be any change. And it's only gonna cost you more next year. And then you're gonna put that debt load on your neighbors who may or may not be able to afford it. So we don't have any choice on where we spend our money. West Central Regional Planning should be able to get by with half the money they get, and we could use that half of money to do nutrition training. But you get my point. I mean, maybe I don't have a point, and maybe I'm just the old son of a gun that is tight with his dollars. And if that's what you think, it wouldn't bother me a bit. So I can't support it.
Bob, can I do a point of clarification?
Yes, you may, Chris.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Larry, and certainly that's a point of view. I just wanted to clarify that the positions, if this position were to go through, it would be health and well-being. It's a different position and it would be open to recruitment. So we would not be, and anybody could apply for it. So I just want to make that clarification that we're not moving people into a position. This would be based on need, not a person. This is based on the programming, not the people. So this would be an open recruitment position.
Well, I would like to clarify is that I wasn't assuming that it was a particular person moving into the same job at all. Never
Great.
was. I'm just saying that when something stops, whether it's the heartbeat of your cat or dog or your cow or stops of a person not having a job, it all hurts. It hurts all the time. And so, and besides, I kind of like the people we've got that are doing it. So there, it hurts.
You have an opinion?
Sure, I can say a few things. I mean, I agree with Larry that what the federal government is doing is cruel. And I am mad as hell that we are in this position. I think that the funding that the federal government gets versus like the property taxes, right? They're just not equivalent. And so to put this tax burden on people with fixed income, right? And others, I think it's very unfair and cruel. I hate that. I have to be honest, I'm a little frustrated that we're having to make a $90,000 budget decision without a heads up prior to the meeting. I feel I would have benefited quite a lot from maybe some kind of memo or staff report sort of outlining the request. I'm just feeling very on the spot without having time to give this consideration. I have some questions. So we're not, I mean, it sounds like we're not like replacing the entire FoodWise program with this one position, right? How much was the FoodWise program? I know there were a number of different staff people, like just what was the cost of that?
I don't know if Sandy's still in the room. So I can give you equivalents. It was 1, 2, 3. Well, it's 3.8 FTEs across the 3 counties. And so, what does that equate to? I don't have those numbers in front of me. So, it'd be 3.8 FTEs with fringes and salary. So I would say probably about 80,000 per FTE, 80 to 90, kind of what we're proposing here per FTE.
And that was across how many counties?
3, Chippewa, Dunn, and Eau Claire.
Okay.
So there are
if
almost 4 positions. There's 4 people, 3.8 FTEs.
Okay. So if each of these counties, Dunn, Chippewa, Eau Claire, did one FTE, we'd be talking about like 3 FTE versus 3.8 FTE. So there is a reduction, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that quite a lot. I'd be hesitant to kind of just throw away the whole FoodWise program. I mean, I appreciate and respect Larry's stance on this for sure. But it does seem to me like it would be a pretty big waste to lose the kind of infrastructure that's surrounding these activities. I don't know. My gut honestly is to approve like a 0.5 FTE for this educator position, and then see how that does and consider expanding it next year. That's my inclination at the moment.
I know, is Tom online? I don't think he ever was. Okay, I'd like to get his opinion on this too. Do we have to pass the budget to this meeting, or can we move it on till next meeting? Or give people a little chance to work it over a little bit maybe, or?
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out when your next meeting was. Probably in the agenda, huh?
Yeah. It'll be September 16th.
So the executive committee will meet to kind of look at the first version of the budget on September 10th. I believe is the day of the executive committee. So I would say aside from another special committee or rescheduling this to be sometime before that,
So
you probably.
Dan,
Yep.
that's on the agenda for consideration already, is to move it to the 9th, a week earlier. The meeting for September. I know Bob and I've talked about that, and that's for consideration, and that next agenda item.
Yeah, that would be kind of the timeline around that is that. And obviously the intent around this is that we have this for the budget workshop. We have the existing budget. So as we talk through the budget at the budget workshop next week, it will reflect position not being there. So that would be, so yeah, you could certainly wait, and if you wanted to amend it or approve this and come back and do an amendment on the 9th, you could. But I think the step of committee approval of budgets is, I mean, this certainly falls within that, like Kristen shouldn't just add it in without asking you. But it is not, the executive committee does not need your permission to change the budget. How's that? Once it goes past so the committees are approving the budget to say, yeah, that looks good, and we're going to send it to executive, and executive can essentially change anything within the budget. Theoretically, they would tell you why, but they have that full authority to make all of those changes.
So, so if we were to say approve adding that to this budget so that we can realistically see what could be done at the larger scale during the budget workshop. At the end of the day, if the executive committee sees this as a non-valuable position, they can essentially take that money back out of that, is what I'm understanding, correct?
Yeah, so we will at the budget workshop kind of show you. So we are at the point of, asking all department heads to build a budget, to share that with administration, and to get it approved by your standing committees. We then take all of those requests and build one big budget,
Mhm.
and that's what we will go over at the budget workshop. So there isn't any. This is purely the departmental request is phase one. This is what the departments requested. And then after that is when we try to make the numbers come out to zero. Well, expenses and revenues come out to zero.
So I mean, I already do support keeping this position. Additionally, like I also sympathize with Larry's point that it's not fair to us that we have to deal with this because the federal government doesn't want to. I know that there's a lot of things that the state does that they could maybe do better for us counties, considering we are essentially the state legislators' biggest constituents that we have constituents. So like, it'd be great if counties didn't just get the blunt of everything, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, we used to give money to nonprofits in the county, nonprofits arguably that served very well and still have really great purposes within the county and keeping all of that. And I mean, it's not back yet. The city is trying to do the same thing. I don't have hopes that it will ever come back from the city once that's gone. And due to that nature of things, I think if we were to lose this position now, unless it comes back from the state mandating it, we're never going to see it again. And I mean, just looking at how this program has affected people, and additionally, it being not essentially controlled by the state as it is proposed, that this has the potential now to reach even more people than we could ever thought could, because there's many people in the county, I'm sure, that sit right just above that low income line that can't access this service because of that requirement. And I know growing up, I mean, we were among the many families in Door County that were just above where we could get the assistance that we needed. And especially if it's just one person that would be doing this, I feel at least keeping that remnant, and from what it sounds like, would still be a pretty strong remnant of this program. I think it's our service to our constituents to keep providing this. And yeah, I mean, doing my napkin math maybe cost $2 per every person in the county. To me, that I would be more than happy paying $20 a month just to make sure that this could be a service still. And so I think that it seems likely that we'd be able to find ways to fund this, if not by applying for grants to help support it, or adding it to levy, however we do it. And that's why we have the budget workshop. And again, like we're just proposing, we would just be proposing this so that we can all discuss about it. I think the fact that us amending the budget to reflect that additional maximum $90,000 position, because they had said that it would be reflected on actuals. So we'd only be paying however much, so budgeting $90,000, we're not paying that much necessarily. But I think putting it into that discussion would be valuable, especially because we're not saying, yes, this is what the budget will be. We're saying, hey, this is what we think the budget should be. And we can all talk about it, and then committee and executive committee can make that final decision from that. So I would like to make a motion if that's not.
Ask Christian a few questions here quick. Supervisor Berry had a good point. What about a half a person, 0.5? Is there enough? I mean, is there more work? Would not do enough work? Or could you split this with another county, add one employee and cover two counties? I'm just throwing options out there as something to do,
Yeah. So Bob, I do know that the other two counties do not have the funds because that's been talked about to split the costs. And so, which is one reason why it's, it seems like it's like a slide in type of thing, but there's been a lot of conversation on the back end of what could this look like, even an extension, what could this look like? And so I do know that there is not the financial appetite for adding the position or sharing this across the counties. They're in much their budgets don't, they're not doing well, especially Eau Claire County. I mean, they're looking at not even giving staff increases because they can't afford it. So a 50% appointment, I think yes, that I mean, it's better than nothing, right? Obviously wouldn't be able to do as much, but certainly when I feel like that would be impactful as well at 50%. And so it would just be the level of at 50%, you're saving on the salary, not the fringes. So we do have to offer full fringes at that point. So it would be a cost savings to the salary line.
I guess I get one clarification was you said that the employee would be under extension. Would that like any benefits would that be provided by the
Extension.
state rather than the county? So we would just be on the hook for salary.
Well, you'd be on the hook for the salary and benefits, paying the benefits at the state. They would not be on your county benefits. It would be state benefits, which is cheaper than your county benefits because we have a larger system. So the cost for benefits is not as much as what they would be at the county level. I can't give you a breakdown. I don't know what the county level is at this point. I can't give you a breakdown of that at the moment in terms of what that looks like, but typically they come in about $3,000 to $5,000 cheaper in benefits.
Okay.
going along with Larry's talk there on employees and stuff, we're gonna be in the same boat if we keep hiring and everything. We're gonna not be able to give our employees raises either down the road if we keep this up. I know we're trying a new system. Hopefully it all works out well, but you gotta look at that option as well, so. I guess it's up to you guys to, make a decision here, so.
I guess, again, I think the point, for me at least, comes from, this is not a said and done decision. Like, this decision can be adjusted later before, I mean, we approve the budget in November, right? So like, should any changes happen that requires us to maybe cut back on this position, whatever, like that can still happen. It's just us being able to talk about it within the big picture is what I'm understanding.
So theoretically, what you're doing is, as a committee and as the oversight of UW's extension, you are suggesting that this position should exist.
Yeah, so I guess I don't see any harm in saying not to do it at the fullest capacity, because we're just suggesting that that happens.
And I feel, sorry.
So
Interrupt.
like, I feel like what I've learned from having to put together proposals for equipment and all of that, of instead of looking at modest decisions and then asking for money for that, I've learned, find the best and most expensive stuff, make your what you ask based off of that, and then be accepting of less dollars to then get the stuff arguably that you'd probably want more, better, more than the best of the like most expensive stuff, right? So us asking at that full $90,000 salary, I mean, we can still expect that to go down, but if something happens, we learn that the county can fully support that with almost no change to the levy, we'd be able to do that, and that would be at no harm to that decision. And I mean, yeah, I guess that's my argument for why we should propose it, because if we don't, then we don't get that opportunity to have that miracle that we can support it. Because if we don't ask for it, if we don't ask for it, we won't get it at all. But if we do, we at least have a chance.
Could be brought up again next year.
Right.
And if we cancel it this year, it could be brought up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess the difficult part would be having to bring it up again and then do it, and then have to sort of rework that sort of infrastructure and so if we do it while the infrastructure is still here, building infrastructure is a lot more difficult than maintaining it. So that's my 2 cents.
Happy to let Larry go.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm gonna stick to my guns. I think we have to let it go. And, if you want to think about, how it is on the sheet, whether it's just the dollars and cents. You spend $50,000 or $90,000 for this position. Somewhere in the county has to do less. There has to be less salt vault. There has to be less social workers to do their job. There has to be I mean, we're the pitcher of water is full. And if you're gonna throw a $50,000 rock in that pitcher of water, it's gonna overflow. So I mean, you can vote your conscience, which is I think you should do. I mean, for crying out loud, I've got my opinion and I'm happy with it. If I have to make it, I'll make it. But just like I was, speaking about the monies that we had for um, nonprofits, that money got sucked up in the county for other things. And the nonprofits, see you later, we don't care. So you, you know, if you feel it's the right thing to just go ahead and ask for it, go ahead and ask for it. If you don't, say no. For me, I'm saying no, because everything the county does is important. And this is no more important than anything else. And the pitcher of water is full. And, you know, maybe Dan doesn't need an assistant as many days as he's got. Look at the money we'd spend there. Let's discuss that. You know what I mean?
I guess at that point,
So, go ahead and vote.
yeah, no, I just finished that point. I mean, like, that conversation wouldn't happen if we didn't approve that, right? So if something else in a department changed, that, and then we'd be able to do this. I mean, well, we didn't ask for it, trying to come back and make that change instead of doing that now, I think would be pointless. So I guess if there's nobody else wants to say anything, I would like to make a motion to amend extension's budget to reflect that proposal for that $90,000 position to be added, to be discussed at the budget workshop and throughout the rest of the budgeting process this year.
Supervisor Burnt, can I just confirm, did you say the full-time or 0.5? Thank you.
Full time, yeah.
Thank you.
So you have a motion, correct? You already had a motion on the floor. This is a motion to amend, correct?
I make
That-
a motion to discuss it.
Well,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
you made a motion to discuss it? We don't have to make a motion to discuss. You would make a motion to approve or deny. So I would say that this is the initial motion. Right. That's not on the floor until it's seconded. Yep. So you need to make a second call for a second, and if you don't get a second, then
Yes.
So just to be clear, like if I wanted to say reduce that from 1 FTE to 0.5 FTE, the thing I would do right now is let that die. Okay, all right.
or you could second it and then you can amend it.
So I went for a second twice, it got
Yep.
denied, so I don't know how much here he could have made his
I know, right?
point, but, motion is declined, I guess.
Okay, well, I guess it's my turn. Shoot. So I would like to make a motion to amend the proposed budget to add 0.5 FTE funding for this position we've been discussing at, oh gosh, I mean, I suppose I have to, I'm sorry, have a like a number as in like $45,000. So what would that be? Because it sounds like it wouldn't be just 50%. It's like 50% less
Don't-
fringe. I don't even
Don't
know what the
quote me,
number
but I
is.
think Kristen had 70 on the low end. Right, Kristen?
So it could be 35 to 40.
Kristen did have 70 on the low end. Sorry,
For,
Kristen, didn't give you that.
yeah, that would be the low end. Yeah, I would probably budget more on the high end just because I think it would be difficult to find the money later. But Dan, I guess that would be your call.
It's not my call at all.
or recommendation, I should say.
Right. But when you say 70,000 was for like a halftime position, right? So when you talk about
Oh.
that plus benefits, that's at 70?
It would be probably less than that for 50%. It would the benefits, let's see. So we'd probably be looking at probably around 60, 50 to 60 for a 0.5.
Okay, I'll do $50,000 for my proposal.
Do the whole thing at once, you know, yeah, you're making a motion to do a half person that
To-
want to do it for you. You gotta-
I would like.
Everybody
to-
understands what you're.
Yes,
proposing,
I
yeah.
understand. Okay. So I would like to make a motion to amend the proposed budget to add $50,000 for a 0.5 FTE extension educator position that we've been discussing.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
So I would second that motion.
Yeah, motion and a second. Any further discussions on this? Does everybody understand what they're voting for or against, for sure?
So when we vote yes on this, we are approving that plus this whole budget, right? Everything else too. Yeah, okay.
There would be, yeah, the 9,000 plus whatever you had.
Yeah, okay.
So 50, that would be 59,744, something like that. Okay, motion second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Kristen, yeah. I guess we don't need the next item on the agenda was to move the meeting. We do not have to do that.
I think even if we weren't intending this to come before that executive committee, I think there was still reason to move it
Oh, what's
to
the
the
reason?
9th because I know Kristen will be out. And I think she was hoping to be here. However, depending the agenda, she said that we could also continue without, and I could give some updates that she sends me as well. So I think there was still cause to move to September 9th if possible.
Anybody got any, your staff, is that, everybody's good with that? Is the 9th good with you guys?
Like it's not the 10th.
Can make it work.
Could come smelling like manure.
I was kind of thinking come directly here.
Yeah, I could do the one.
Do it? But, yeah, we need a motion to move that to
I'll
the 9th,
Make a motion to move our next meeting to
September
September
9th at 4:30 PM.
Yep.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a first and a second. Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries, so our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 9th. Next on the agenda, reports, resolutions, and ordinance to the county board from the Community Resources and Tourism Committee. We've all looked at this, food-wise resolution. This will get moved to the Committee on Admin if we approve this. So they're meeting a week from Thursday,
It'll go to executive.
pardon?
It'll go to executive.
Oh, I thought I went to. Got headline on this thing, so I thought that's why it would be going there, so we can't approve it if it's got the wrong.
Yeah, that should have your name on it.
We change that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going right to the. Says county board, but ordinance to the county board, but it's going to executive.
So executive will see it, but they don't act on it. They just
Prove it, put it on,
Yeah,
on the
yep.
agenda.
Yep.
So this will get changed then.
Bob, I just want to clarify, since it's coming from county and committee, I can't make any changes. Since I was proposed by you guys, I believe that would go through county clerk, correct, Dan?
No, they just, if you just, when you make the motion, just to say that with the correction on the back end, ultimately that's just for the official version of that. So I mean, the core of the resolution is the written words and the whereases and the therefores and whatnot. So yeah, we'll change that to be the appropriate chair for the committee.
Okay, anybody want to make, you guys all read it? They had it in your packet. You had time to look it over. Any additions, corrections? You guys good with it?
I think it looks great.
Make a motion to send it to the executive?
I'll make that motion.
We don't want to make the edits on this then? Approve the edits that come from the committee,
Oh.
from us?
Yeah, so you don't even have to do that. It's just,
It'll get changed.
Okay.
yeah, before anybody signs it, as that all gets signed afterwards, we just have the signature path on the bottom. So it's just,
Okay.
it's
All right,
not-
we have a motion on the floor to send this to executive. Got a second? Got a second? Any further discussion? And the discussion, I mean, we really were talking about trying to get the food wise program back into the state or a state or federal, have it reinstated. But what they did here is told all the good stuff that it does. They explained more about what it did and as opposed to trying to force them into sending it ahead to that, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Announcement meeting date is Tuesday, September 9th, 4:30 PM, right here. Any other announcements? Meeting adjourned. Oh, no, you're right, it was long.
Yeah, we never go this long.
Well, there's a lot of discussion on that, couple items there, but.